items for review, there's letters A through F on here. Some will be going to, most will be going to public surplus. 2 items are going to recycling. Any questions or comments on them? I actually just had one question, Mr. Deibler, real quick. Letter F, artwork prints, is that part of the art collection of what we determined is of low value?
Yes, that is part of the art collection, the pieces that have really no or very, very little value based on the appraiser, and he suggested that we dispose of those if we wish to.
Okay.
So we're trying to clean them.
Okay. All right. Anybody else? Okay. Item number 2 is change order approvals. Mr. Loeffler?
Thank you. We have change order number 1 for Stoneridge Aquatic construction. That was the high school pool HVAC upgrades. It's a deduct credit of unused material of $4,700. And then we have change order number 1 for coastal communications. It was the Sellersville Elementary clock speaker replacement. $3,910 for credit back unused material allowance.
Thank you. Any questions on that?
What's the status at the pool at this point?
Well, the pool's complete. It's in pretty good shape. We haven't heard any problems since we've been up and running. The UV system is running. The low-level return is running proper. Chemicals seem to be in balance. Once we were up and running 100%, I haven't heard any issues at all.
And how often do you have to replace the UV lights? Do you know?
2 years.
Is it every 2 years?
1.5 to 2 years to replace the bulb.
Yeah, I was going to say that, and I'm going to say, Mr. Wofford took me down there one day. I asked him, I wanted to see it. I was surprised at how small the unit was. It seemed really nice in there. I used to spend a lot of time in there. I think on the wall, the humidity was 56%. I don't know how they're doing that. But, I know. But it was amazing to me. And the kids had just finished using it.
Right.
They were actually leaving while we walked through. So I got sort of like the board member tour that we asked for. And the unit was really small. There was a lot of ductwork. And if nobody's complaining, that's good, because it seemed like I've never seen the pool like that, any pool like that before. So I guess it's working. So I felt better about that, because I didn't know if it was going to work or not, to be honest. I thought it would. But I didn't think you could get control that the air like that. So that was pretty good.
And just so you know, I know Dr. Price has been working with Jacob Grant, and it looks like they may be able to do 2 days/nights of the lap swim for the community.
Yeah.
So that's now versus, just in the springtime. So he's looking at, I think, like a Monday night and a Saturday they were able to work out. So he was going to present that at the activities meeting, I believe, next week. He'll give you more details.
Jeff, over here. Hi. You said that you haven't heard any complaints, it was up and running 100%. When was it up and running 100%?
Oh, it's been up and running 2 months maybe.
2 months.
Yeah.
Is that enough time, do you think, before we...
Well, I think the new part of this part of that was in the shoulder season when we're not really heating and cooling, and that's when the complaints seem to come heavy every year.
Okay, that's a good, okay.
So
That's good.
it was definitely part of that, and
Okay.
here we are again today with no air, no heat.
Yeah.
So we're getting through that time. It seems like when we're heating full-time, cooling full-time, those issues seem to go away on their own
Okay.
to a degree. But, so we've been up about 2 months running. I pop in there quite a bit. Conditions seem like when Barry and I were there, it was very clean.
So this is good news.
This is very good news. Again, we emptied the pool, we washed the pool, acid washed the tile. It's white again.
Not scummy?
Well, not darker, gray. New water, so it's balanced a lot better. So we had some issues getting it balanced right away, but that went away pretty quickly. So I think we're in good shape.
Okay, thanks. Thank you, good news.
Chip, is the usage of the pool still comparable, like to what we were last year?
I really don't know. I would assume. I don't think anything's changed.
Okay. And move to item number 3, which is potential lease of property on Ridge Road to Pennridge Animal Hospital.
Okay, Pennridge Animal Hospital is up on the Ridge Road. They contacted us to find out if we would be interested in leasing part of our property. We have a property right beside them. Our property comes from the high school and goes up in that area. It's actually a little wider than I thought. It's about 750 feet. That's pretty wide, actually. It's like 2.5 football fields or so. They're going to put an addition on their building, and to put an addition out the back, it's taking up some of their parking. So they have some issues there that they're trying to deal with and want to know if we were interested in leasing part of that property for them to put in parking. So I was talking to Sean, I wanted to make sure that they were serious about this before we brought it to the board to ask. And I told them, things they'd have to look into. One, would the township allow it? 2, they talked about like a stone parking lot, and I said, I really don't believe the township will allow that. That would have to be paving, which now we're talking about impervious surface, we're talking about drainage. They're going to put lighting there, any ADA walkway steps, if that would be, that would be there too. So she went upon herself and talked to East Rock Hill Township, and they didn't go into a lot of detail, but East Rock Township said that they would be okay with it. And so she's got an engineer and contractor that's working on their addition, or looking at their addition, and he drew up some quick plans that I think you have in front of you, and if you have that open, it's a little small, but you can blow it up. But the way we're looking at it is, we're looking to say north, the park's on the other side of the ridge there. We're looking from the high school up. And the building in front of you is the animal hospital. And that little box to the left, driveway, is on our property. It's a small portion. That would take up about 1/4 acre of our property.
Jeff, are they further in that direction, like towards the fields that go behind North? Or
No, they are
Championship Villas?
actually,
People know it is.
they are almost straight up from the field house.
Oh, behind Hellman?
Because a little bit to the left of the field house would be that path leading up to there. Correct.
That's the path that, I'm sorry.
That,
Is that whole area then being paved, or just the part that looks like a parking lot area?
just the part that looks like a parking lot. You can see the drive would extend quite a bit in, and then the parking lot, the 10 parking slots themselves, and then the drive going back to their all existing parking. That would be the only thing that's paved. That is the same location or same property that East Rock Hill is looking to put in the walking path.
That's what I wanted to ask.
So that was another question, would this interfere with that? And East Rock Hill Township said, no, it wouldn't. They got, first off, we have another, 200 yards to the left of that, and they would work around it if it ever went through. So I also, informed them that they would be responsible for all costs, including developing the lease and all of that, and they seem to be fine with it. So there's really just the initial question is the board interested in leasing?
How would we determine a price for that? Anybody have any ideas? For leasing it? Who would establish that? If we went that way?
Well, we could reach out to some businesses to see, get some pricing that way. Maybe Dewey has some ideas that they could look at.
I mean, it would be nice to have some ballparks too if we go any further into this.
And my other question to them was how long the lease they want. It's typically something like a 99-year lease, and
Don't
you
do
can't
that.
say we would ever want to do that.
I'm involved in one of those, thanks to my father-in-law, and don't do that,
Yeah.
right? It's one of those things that it has a lot of unintended consequences. In my case, it happens to be on a lake in New York State, which makes it a little more complicated
Yeah.
because it's not around the corner.
Right.
And it's got 6 or 8 leasees who have docks and boathouses and just not a good idea. So I think it should be much shorter term than 99 years.
I would think that Solicitor Cox would certainly direct us in a fashion that there would be some type of, whatever term the lease is, but there would be some type of terminology in there that would allow the district with some sort of notice to end the lease. I would think he would recommend that and make sure the lease gives the board that ability.
Do we have any other lease arrangements like this?
Not that I'm aware of.
Do we have any plans for that lot?
You know, we talked about it. The only thing that we could possibly use that for is a roadway out, a driveway out of the campus here. It's not really on our books, it's not, hasn't been talked about.
It does have frontage on Ridge, right?
It has frontage on the ridge, right. So the only thing I can think of would be a possible parking lot or outlet. But to get there, you're driving through all the fields to get up
That'd be
there.
a big
you know.
project, putting a road up there.
It would be a big project that's quite steep. So I'm not even sure how you would accomplish that, but
So it'll be like a precedent-setting lease decision maybe if we do it, like leasing to, you know, the public. Find it? I mean, I'm okay with looking into it as long as we don't have to spend the money to do it.
and that's what I told him, right?
I think, go ahead, Joanne.
I'm just curious, this is really jumping ahead, but when you lease something like this to someone and they're responsible for all the development costs, and that I understand, but what happens when they want to end it? Would they be responsible for restoring it back to, if we wanted them to make it green, or would it be a parking lot?
That would, if you would like that, you would put that in the lease documents. So you would, those are things to think about. If we do go into something like this, what does happen whenever it ends? What is their responsibility? So those are all things that you would need to include in the lease. So it's a good question.
So I think that's more the question, you know, here this is the information brought to us, and do we want to move forward with looking into it further and the potential of doing this? So are we in agreement to do that? To, you know, in look into what we're going to charge them for leasing if we do that, what, you know, stipulations we want to put in there, such as something like that. So we're just flat out saying that we're not interested in leasing.
I just had a question. Is there like woods behind that, between there and us? Like, would you have to walk through woods to get down to the field, or is that open?
There's a path there now. In the summer, it gets quite overgrown. It just, right now, you could walk through there from the Ridge Road down to the high school campus. Once you got through the original path and down the hill, then the field opens up that we mow. So let's just say it's maybe 100 yards or so of, not necessarily woods, but somewhat of an open path that grows shut during the summer.
Because then once they put in that path, the township may want to let people use that parking lot too, for people who want to use that walking path that they're putting in there. And I know one of the things that West Rock Hill was looking at doing with a local school that had a parking lot there is that, you know, doing some kind of an agreement with them where they could also use the parking lot when they're not using it. I don't know if that would be any benefit to us. I know that we have issues with football. Sometimes when there's big football games, people parking even across the street in the development there. So I don't know how easily accessible it would be to, you know, at night if they're to use that parking lot or not really.
Well, again, it's only for 10 spots.
Oh, is that all it is?
Yeah, it's only 10 spots for one, and two, that whole path coming down would not be lighted. So it would be very dark. And it's quite uphill.
Well,
Even if Berksey had their path or East Rock Hill Township had their walking path, it would still be dark.
Right. But at least if people wanted to go on the walking path and there's just a few people, that might be helpful to them.
That would be
But,
fine.
As far as trying to figure out a cost too, I know that East Rock Hill and West Rock Hill lease out property to other people too, so they may be good contacts to see what they charge for stuff like that.
Any other questions? Anybody? So we'll move forward, I guess, Jeff, with looking into this.
Should I ask them to start putting a lease together? I mean, I'm sure. Should I ask them to start putting a lease together, or do we want to?
We shouldn't do anything other than tell them to put it together. That's just my opinion. Let them come to us with their proposal, and then we hand it off to our lawyer and say, what's wrong with this?
Okay.
That's my opinion. I'm not saying that's right, but I don't think we should do anything.
I agree with what Barry's saying. I don't think we're at the point of saying, okay, come up with a lease. You know, what's their proposal? What are they proposing as far as what they want to pay? You know, how it'll be maintained, if there's any stipulations like what, you know, Joan said, that if they decide to not use the property at a later date, what happens to it?
Okay.
And then by all means, you know, have Rob look over it and go from there. Is everybody okay with that? Mr. Krause?
Yes, I support that. There's, like Jen has pointed out, there's what happens when it's done. We want to keep this lease reasonably short, and who's responsible should there be any environmental issues up there? They're parking cars, somebody loses a tank of gas, tank of diesel, whatever. Who's responsible for all that?
All right, we'll move on to the next item, which is number 4, the art update. Mr. Daubert?
Okay. Based on Dr. Yarnell's suggestion, we contacted the Michener Museum, and Jackie did that, and two folks came in to meet with us, Lois Feeder and Adrian Romano from Michener. We showed them some of the paintings that the district does own. They were very, very impressed. And then we met with them, sat down in the office and met with them and shared with them our inventory. And they took a lot of information back to the museum. They wanted to share it with some of with their chief curator and some other folks. And they've just asked Jackie today if they could come back the first week of December and bring some additional people and take a much closer look at the pieces. And we welcome them to do that, of course. But in the end, what we kind of asked them to do when we sat down was, give us some information, help us, try to determine what's best to do with this artwork. Give us some examples, or give us some choices, give us some options, educate us a little bit, tell us, help us understand how much it's going to cost to maintain pieces that if we do decide to keep them and things like that. And they said they would definitely not, help us or give us any advice on selling or anything like that. And that's okay. That's not a problem. But they just asked for some time to actually be a part of this, and they have a lot of art programs coming up where they would actually perhaps maybe ask us to lend some of our pieces to those programs, we said we would certainly entertain that and talk to the board about that, but they really wanted to spend some time and then perhaps come back and even come to a facilities meeting and talk to the board about what, kind of educate us a little bit, which I thought was a great idea, because we don't...
We don't know what we got.
Yes, thanks. So I thank you, Dr. Yarnell, for the suggestion. It was a very enlightening meeting. We probably spent an hour with them, and they were happy. They were really excited about what they were looking at. It was like kids on Christmas morning. Look at this one, and it's like, wow. But so it was a good experience. So we're going to continue down that road and ask them to perhaps come back and talk to the board. So that's where that's at in the art update. And the last thing I have is I wanted to show you an update on the map project. Danielle will get it up on the screen for us, and I'll kind of walk you through it. If you guys can come down or step around, and then that'll be the last thing that I have.
This isn't. It's just print. Sorry. Stop the complete.
Okay, so quickly, I'll just try to give you an update where we're at. This project has kind of taken a life to its own over the last number of months, and we went through a lot of kind of iterations and changes and going one direction and kind of stopping because it didn't work and went another direction. And I'm talking about programming stuff and things like that I really don't know a lot of, but we just knew when we were seeing things we didn't like, and we sent back questions and things like that, so he would try another avenue and things like, different things. So that's kind of why it's taken a little longer than what we expected, but we think we're getting closer to a nice product to put on the website, and actually then a actual paper product also to have available for people. So what I wanted to show you was just where we're at right now. This version came to us on Monday, and we've sent back probably 5 or 6 different questions or suggestions for changes since then. They're little things, but they're just little things that we're seeing now that would make it a little more user-friendly or make a little bit more sense. So we're kind of working through those. So I don't think we're going to be much longer till we get this finished and get it online. But the first thing it'll open up is just a message that says to the community, why we're providing this map, what you can do with the map, you can find our buildings, things like that. So that was kind of the start of it. And then the next thing that crops up will be an instruction page, and the instructions, they're very simple instructions, but it's just basically telling you how to work the map. On the top right, there's going to be a button where you pick your which schools, things like that you want to look at, and then on the top left you have plus and a minus sign to come in and out of, and then a search button below that so that you can actually type in an address and search for. The thing that really intrigued us about this whole project was, what does the person do? What can the person do that is moving into our district from, for example, from me, who moved in from halfway across the state last year and wanted to find out where my kids would go to school. First of all, I wanted to find out, okay, what houses are in Pennridge School District, because I wanted to live in the district and have my kids go here. But then after that, what, from a particular address, what elementary school would the children go to, what middle school, and what high school. So this was really a project that was that I was kind of living as we were talking about it, because I felt the pain of, I would ask a real estate agent, well, which school does that go to? And they're, well, I'm not sure. So I would go to either our transportation people or our registration people, give them an address and say, where does this, what school does this address go to? And they said, it would be a really great idea if we had a tool out there that would help people with this. So that's kind of where this whole project came from. So, so once you get past the instructions, then the map will come up, and going to what you can actually do is you can actually start with just the streets. And then, pretty plain Jane thing here, and then you say, okay, throw my elementaries on there, and what that is the elementary boundaries, and each color is a different elementary school boundary. Then you can say, show me my elementary schools. The actual buildings will pop up where they're at, and you can go to the building, and it'll tell you which school it is. So one thing I've asked him to do is also put the addresses on there when it pops up, so that if somebody wants to actually go see it or whatever, they use the address for the GPS. They won't have to go to our site and try to search for an address. So that's one of the questions I asked him if he could do. Oops. All right. Struggling with not a mouse here. Okay. It's much easier to use when you're used to a mouse. Okay, so each elementary school, then you can say, I want to see my middle schools. Your middle schools will pop up. I want to see my high school. Okay, so what you have is you have all your elementary schools, you have all your buildings, you know where your elementary attendance areas are, and you know, of course, your high school is the whole district. So one piece that we're missing is the middle school boundaries. And the nice thing that he did was he did it on a kind of an overlay where you can actually still see the elementary under there, but also see where that middle school is. And then you can put all the middle schools on with the elementaries, or just put, for example, South on if you want to see just where South is. So you can just pick and choose what you want to see on the map. So there's few other things, questions that we sent back. It says up at the top, it says elementary school areas, but down at the bottom it says boundaries. I want that consistent. So little things like that. So we're at the point where we're kind of nitpicking right now, so we're getting closer to being finished. But that's it. It is simple to use. We wanted something simple to use. Oh, I'm sorry. I missed the biggest point, or biggest part of this. Over here, you click. Put an address in. It takes you, that's my address, but it takes you right to the address, kind of zooms you in, and then you can simply just work your way back out to see where you're at in comparison to everything else. Okay? And then if you want to do a different address, you just go back to the search, put a different address in, it's going to pop it right up. So that was, can't believe I almost forgot to show you that. But that's the great function on it that we wanted. And that was actually a part that was a bit of a struggle. His first couple of maps he sent us, when you did the search, it brought up a secondary map on top of that map, and it would put a pin there. But then it wouldn't transfer back to the main map. So we didn't like that, so he had to kind of change directions and reprogram. So that kind of took a while. So, any questions? Okay. Like I said, it's been a long time coming, but the goal is to get it done right. It takes a little longer. The goal is to get it done right.
Hey, Sean, that'll be on our website, right?
Yeah.
Does that present itself as a plugin, a widget, or something that like a realtor can embed in their own website, or is this something they have to come to our website to? Just curiosity.
Yeah, more than I know.
Anybody have any questions on that? No? Go ahead.
I'll just repeat it so that everybody hears. I had asked Sean, first off, nice job, I like it, whether this was, how this was accessible. If the community and/or realtors need to come to our website exclusively to get to this, or if this takes the form of like a widget or an element that can be embedded in, say, a realtor's website, that they can access it that way. So it's just something to ask. Yeah. Thank you.
Anybody else? Did you have a question? No. Oh, okay, not to put you on the spot there, Jim. All right, that's all that we have for tonight. Any comment from the public? Go ahead.
Sue Furlong, West Rockville Township. I was listening to your discussion about the lease of the property up on Ridge Road, and I was glad that Ms. Cullen brought up the point that it's not just, them getting the property the way they want it, but at the end of the lease to put it back the way we would like to have it, or at least return it to the way they found it, because that's an extremely important thing and should not be omitted. The other thing that I listened to was, well, can cars park there and then come down to our football game, and can we use it for this, that, and the other? You are leasing that property. I don't know if you've ever leased property, but if I buy property or lease property, I do it for me. I don't do it so now the people I'm leasing it from get to use it this way and that way. You have to realize when you lease that property, it's no longer accessible to us, unless it's in the contract, but I would not want to do that, and I'll tell you why. You're going to muddy the water as to responsibility if somebody gets hurt on that property. We should not use it. Okay, you're looking at me, Peter. If somebody, let's say 2 cars collide.
I tend to agree with you.
Okay, good. I thought maybe you didn't understand. I didn't know, I thought maybe you didn't understand what I'm saying, but, once it becomes their parking lot, it's theirs. We're not going to use it for our football games. We're not going to use it to access the pathway or get to the golfing range from here or park our buses or whatever. It becomes their responsibility, their insurance, make sure they have it. Because as a taxpayer, I don't want some kind of muddied situation where, they're using it maybe inappropriately and all of a sudden somebody gets hurt, their dog gets run over, and they're going to sue the school district. I think that needs to be a real clear line. Now it's theirs, we don't use it, and just keep that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have an unrelated question. I had asked to have put on the agenda for a facilities meeting some discussion about the locks on the bathrooms, and then it didn't get put on the facilities meetings, and then it just got done. And I know that other people were share those concerns. I don't know if a majority shares the concerns or not, but I would really appreciate having a discussion, because I really am concerned about the situation that we're leaving ourselves open to. And I didn't elaborate before, but I do feel like I want to share why I'm so concerned, because it's not just kids doing inappropriate things in the bathrooms. It goes beyond that in my perspective. We have kids with diabetes. We have kids with POTS syndrome. These kids could go to the bathroom and pass out in the bathroom. We wouldn't even know they're in there.
Okay.
We have. Go ahead.
I was going to say, we could just put it on an agenda for a future facilities meeting to discuss it at that time.
I would appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Yep. Anybody else?
Oh, I'm sorry, one other thing. I was also wondering if we could put on the agenda a discussion about where our age limit should be for walkers, because I do think it's a little bit young. And I just think that maybe we should explore what that age cap should be for who we're requiring to walk in the district.
we can also talk about that, but Peter, correct me if I'm wrong, has this not been a topic
It's
many,
been a
many
topic
times
numerous
over?
times, right, yes.
That must have been before my time.
It
Well, it was, but yes, it's not a new topic, right? It would be revisiting an old topic. That doesn't say you can't or shouldn't revisit it, it just has been talked about extensively in the past.
Okay, so noted. All right, we're adjourned for this evening.